Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. For those of you that are watching and you're brand new, my name is Patty Hall, and I have two channels that are called Get Balanced 2020 and Divine Warrior Intuitive. The idea is to transform your mind, spirit, and body together, and they all work differently. However, without one element, you can't be balanced. So today what we're going to talk about is fear, the fear factor, okay? So the fear factor in this element that we're going to talk about is basically the 5 W's of fear, why we have it, where it comes from, and how we can get rid of it, or how do we manage it, and then the 5 things that go on with that. The other thing is that fear also interplays with our communication. I'm going to do a complete video. I have videos out for Get Balanced about fear and communication already, but I'm re-updating them. So if you've seen this before, don't worry about it. We are going to actually do Fear Factor 2.0. So this is basically facing your giants and where they come from. So let's get started, because that's what you're here for, to find out what is it about your life. This isn't about me. This is about your life, and where fear comes with you, what you can do, and how you can conquer it. So for the first one, what is fear? So basically, fear is sort of like an unpleasant feeling that is putting you in a situation where you feel that there's going to be danger or that something is going to harm you. Now, how is that made? That could happen through so many different ways. Mainly the 3 things is through circumstance, how we grow up and what happened to us as we were little, or it could also come out of, oh gosh, I already got a brain fart. It also could come out of our own fears of how we create them in our mind. So a lot of the times, fear is usually contributed by something that we have happened, something we had taught, something that had taught us, or through real, true fear, fight or flight. Now, fear can be used constructively. Fear can be used destructively. So what I want to talk to you today about how to get it to the point where you're using it constructively and knowing when that intuition is going to kick in. So sometimes you're going to hear me talk about the normal aspects of the secular world in as far as fear, but being an empath, and that's why I have the Divine Warrior Intuitive, I also talk about fear with the unknown, the unseen. You know, some people get afraid of spirits. They get afraid of what they can't understand, like in their thinking, or maybe they have abilities to see, those kind of fears, and how to overcome those. Those will be more towards the end, because not everybody is that way. So let's get started. What is fear? Fear is actually sort of a lie, if you think about it, because there's 2 ways we think as human beings. We think either out of love, and make our decisions and choices out of love, or we make them out of fear. And they're like, no, that's not right, Patty. That's not right. Yes, it is. It actually is, if you think to the core of where that decision or choice is being made. If you want to talk about it, you can send me an email and go from there. However, I'm not talking about, this fear that I'm talking about today is not like the military soldiers that come back with PTSD. That is a real legitimate fear. That is something that has to be helped through therapy and counseling and things like that. That's not the fear I'm talking about. The giants in your life that I'm talking about is, what is it that is holding you back, sabotaging you, keeping from your purpose and your destiny. Well, destiny is actually the way to get to your purpose or your calling, because a lot of the times we sabotage ourselves out of our own fear, which could be actually based from nothing other than fear of maybe rejection. That's just sort of one example. So just know that I'm not talking about like PTSD. That is something that you really have to go and get professional help with. And you have to have a support system to do that with you as well. So the thing is with fear, it comes also with different stages of our life. So fear is like when you're little, and you're a toddler. You have no fear until your parents tell you, don't do that, you're going to get hurt, or don't do that, you're going to hurt someone, that kind of a thing. Then we begin to learn that fear might be a real thing, that we don't want to get hurt. But then as we grow up, fear can come through trauma. Fear can come through experience. Fear can come through self-worth, low self-esteem, and things like that. As we grow and progress and our core begins to change because we're being influenced by all these outside things, then we begin to lose ourselves of who we are as a person, because now we're fear of whatever it is. For me, it was really strange. I had the fear for a long, long, long time. I thought I had a fear of heights, because I would go to the mountains or whatever and get to an edge and I would but then one day when I was flying in a little Cessna 182, because I fly planes, okay, so how is that I have a fear of heights if I can fly and I have no problem? What it is I have a fear of ledges. Now, if you believe in spirituality and reincarnation, maybe that I passed away falling off an edge somewhere. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is I had a fear of edges. And why? Why is that? Maybe, so for example, maybe somebody as a young child took me to, we were playing or doing whatever, took me an edge and pushed me off. And maybe it wasn't a very big edge, but it was enough to scare me. And then I became scared of edges. Or maybe somebody just scared me whoo, and they had a hold of my coat, and maybe I was falling over an edge. But I don't know why I was afraid of edges. But I do know I was up in this little airplane and I looked down, and that sort of became a focal point, oh, I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of maybe falling out. So now I don't have that fear anymore, but I faced my giant, okay? So that's sort of an example. So you have to look deep inside yourself. What are you fearful of? And why is it that you're here? Do the 5 W's. What, where, when, how, and why. Okay, so with that, we're going to look at what is fear. We already defined it, that it's something that could be a threat or painful or something, a legitimate fear, an animal, a bear coming at you, knowing that maybe it's hungry and it's going to maul you. That's a legitimate fear. Or there's a fire and you're stuck in the house and you have a legitimate fear. You need to get out. Legitimate fear. So why do we have the fears? Probably because it's our mechanism inside. Where does the fear come from? Our cores, where we start. Where is the base of that fear? What happened to create that fear? And when did it happen? You have to sort of look at that. All right. So here's the main thing that I'm going to talk about is that most people, majority of the people, and I don't do this anymore, like I said, this is a generational thing, is that we fear out of what other people think, what other people may talk about, what other people may look at you about. And that's a huge fear, especially, okay, now with Get Balanced 2020, I have a degree in nutrition and fitness, but I also have some psychology in the background. And the thing is that what we fear is something that creates our self-worth, our self-motivation, our self-value, and things like that. Then before you know it, we're not even living our life. I have another video called Walking in the Truth. We're not walking in our own life. We're walking fear from what everybody else or what other things on the outside are saying and doing, more concerned about our journey, our values, our integrity, and things like that. So it takes a lot of courage to face the fear. It's like Samson and or David and Goliath in the Bible. You know, he's a little guy, big, big thing. It is fearful to face something really big. It is huge to face something big. But if you face it, it will gradually go away. Here's what you can think of fear as: your shadow. And if you're an empath or look at the spiritual side of it, then we call that shadow work, because it's following us, or it's in front of us, or it's making us really pay attention to that fear when we actually need to make that shadow go away. So with that, we want to face, what is it? So like I said before, this is sort of generational. When we're in our 20s, we really don't think a lot about this kind of stuff. Probably not until we get into our 40s and stuff like that. But the thing is, when we're in our 20s, we still have our fears. We all have a fear, and one or two fears are probably never going to go away. But the thing is, in our 20s, we sort of grow fears a little bit more. Would you sky jump in your 20s? Would you sky jump in your 40s? I'm ready to go sky jumping, actually. I want to do that. I would like to do that for 2021. But the thing is, a lot of people look at that and it's like, oh, heck no. But maybe in their 30s, like, well, yeah, I could do that. So why does that change? Why does that fear change? Because we grow, we change. Our lessons grow, our journeys grow, our experiences grow. So we gradually move through a different level of our thinking process, because it is a mindset. Did we actually create that fear inside ourselves because we built it up as a habit? For example, the other thing too is, or did somebody put it on us? But the thing is, what is that fear? So if you're facing rejection, that is huge for women. So when I was a personal trainer and managed gyms, was getting into bodybuilding and things like that, I had a lot of women come to me, and that's actually where this book comes from, A New You Cookbook and a Weight Management Program. That is all about teaching the psychological aspects of losing weight from the mind, spirit first, because when I went from 215 pounds down to 136 pounds on a bodybuilding stage in 1 year, I learned through that process and going to college that it is not about the weight, it's about the mind and the spirit. Same with fear. Same with fear. Was I fearful going into that? Oh, hell yes. I really, really was, because I didn't know what people thought of me, but I was worried about what other people thought. But as through that process, I began to do my internal work and say, you know what? No, I'm going to face this. But I also had a support person with me, my trainer, who helped me through that process to say, you know what? You can do this. You can make this. You can make it happen. And it did. In 1 year, I was on a competition stage. Woo-hoo. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not in that shape anymore. Anyway, but I faced that fear. The giant went away. And it actually grew so much confidence. And that's when you face your fears, that you will grow more confidence. You will grow more self-value. You will grow more integrity. You will grow more everything within yourself. And I'm speaking to women a lot, because a lot of women have been pushed down, shoved down, and they sometimes do it through themselves, because we allow the outside to affect us. Okay. So I'm going to talk about mostly with that, because when we're talking about confidence and fear, what is it? Okay. So I'm going to go to the dating world here. So in dating, oh my goodness, it's like you're playing a game, and you're so fearful. You go on your first date. What are they going to think about me? Did I dress right? Did I do this right? Is that right? Oh, is he going to like me if I say this? Or if we are so fearful, rather than going in with confidence and knowing ourselves, that we want to sit there and sort of cover and just like, okay, yeah, okay, well, he'll change, maybe it'll work out. No, we really need to learn to face that fear, to go in with confidence. What are you looking for? I'm looking for somebody that I can, grow with and go to get married. I'm looking for someone that I would like to have children with. I would like to have somebody to grow old with. When the other person, again, may not even have that, but you're wasting time out of fear. So you waste time because you can't have the courage, or you don't have the knowledge how to get that out. It's not something you were taught. So again, to make that easy and to make that actually sort of go away is you have to realize that I teach in Get Balanced 2020 that somebody's perspective is not your perspective. That is a huge key in getting over fear. And once you realize that perspective is different than yours, and you communicate, that fear begins to melt away like a snowman, literally. And why? Because you're getting clarity. Once you get clarity, there's nothing to fear. So let me give you some examples so that when you walk away, you can go and work on whatever kind of fear that you have. Doesn't matter what it is. But a lot of what I work with are women that have low self-esteem. So if you know somebody that is that, please share this video, have them look at it. Hopefully they can always ask questions and things like that. My channels are free. My videos are free. My communication with you is free. All free. So if you want to email me, I don't know how to do this, or can you give me the tools? Get a hold of me. Really, my gift here that the divine has blessed me with is to share with you, and he asked me go and teach. So I am teaching. So let's get back to this perspective thing. Okay. So if I sit here with a one-on-one with you, your journey is completely different. So I might be thinking one thing, but I think, well, why aren't they doing this? But if I ask them, why did you do it that way? They give me their whole journey or their story. I'm like, oh, I can see what you're talking about. Again, back to the core values, back to the also where it started. That's where you got to go. You got to do your shadow work, your inner child work, or whatever you want to call it. You got to go back to the past and find out where it started. So let's go to dating. Perspective, my perspective, and I'm a female, so I'm going to use men, and his perspective is going to be different. So when you go into something, you have to, I use a formula all the time, and please write this down if you take notes or anything, or come back and watch it again and take notes, is because this is the key element to getting peace, getting joy, getting anything in your life, and living very, very calm life, is that we have an expectation, and that expectation is ours. So if we do plus reality, remember it's a formula, plus reality, which is their perspective, not ours, theirs, reality, theirs, equals an outcome of an emotion or a feeling. So this is what I teach in Get Balanced 2020, and it can be in spirituality. Whatever you expect, and that person doesn't come back with that. Let me give you an example. And this is a thing in dating. I'll do it in communication, in the communication video, because it's really important, is that if you go on a date, or if you go on a date and the guy says, hey, I'll call you tomorrow and let's plan the next date. Okay. And you don't communicate, what time are you going to call me? It doesn't matter, but they say they're going to call you. Reality is he didn't call you. So then you're frustrated, you're upset, you're angry, you're sad, whatever, depressed. It's like, oh, he didn't like the first date, so he never called me. Well, one, he could have been lying. But two, if he was really honest about it, there wasn't the communication there. So that happened to be the whole formula ended up in the crapper. Okay, so with that, sorry, I've got a couple things going on today. With that, the expectation was wrong. Now, if she goes in like, oh, what is he going to do? My expectation is he's really handsome, he's really good looking. Oh, he's got a good job. Oh, he's got a nice car. Oh, wow, he's going to be a really nice guy. You go in, and the reality is, no offense, gentlemen, but he's a jerk, or he's self-centered, then your reality is disappointment. But you have this perception, all right? So most women that are going through this, their perception of things is sort of twisted. Because the thing is that we go in and we want to look our best. We want to do everything their best. That if you go out and it's a good date, that he's going to actually call you or maybe want a relationship with you. In reality, that's not true. So we begin to become a little bit more fearful, a little bit more hesitant about letting our heart out, or letting things go, or letting us be ourselves. But a lot of that is built up over time. Then you're hurt. Then there's fear of getting into a relationship. And this happens to both men and women. So your fear of something becomes more and more because you allow it. So you're so worried about what's going to happen out there that your now perception of things is distorted. So that distortion begins to change your thinking, your heart, and your whole shebang. And then you begin to think a thought process that becomes destructive rather than constructive. So how do we fix that? How do we fix that? We have to learn to know who we are. That's the number one key. And when we know who we are, we know what we like, we know what we want, we know our goals, we know our visions, we know how to move forward with confidence. So when you begin to know yourself, the fear becomes to diminish because you begin to know how to communicate and ask for the things that you want. Because when you do that and you live and drop that fear, or you get the courage enough to fight through that fear. And what do I mean by that? So instead of going there and having anticipation or exception or expectations, then you go in there with confidence saying, yep. I said, well, you don't have to do it that way, but just that, well, it's nice to know you. Okay, so what is your plans? What is your future? Dude says, well, I don't know, we'll just go with the flow. Thank you. It's nice having a date. I'll see you later. That means because he has no intentions, no goals, no nothing. And that means he doesn't want to really have that intention or that goal, or at least with you. If you go into a date and you say, okay, here, so what are your goals? What are your plans? I'd really like to see where this friendship goes. My goals are that, I'm really looking for a long-term, possibly marriage. Boom. You asked. If they don't answer, it's all about communication and clarity. We got to go back to clarity, okay? So that's the thing, is to start. This is the things to start to drop that fear, to get it to melt away. You can do that with anything, with dating, your family, your work, just yourself. Because a lot of the times, for some of you who know me, I've been through sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. I've been through, my brother was murdered, went through that, went through cancer with my mom. I could go on and on and on. So yes, I could sit there and start living in fear. Oh, am I going to get cancer? Oh, you know what? Oh my gosh, and I've been married and they left, and it's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Lo and behold, later, I found out it was more him, because he married 2 or 3 times afterwards anyway. So he had a problem. He didn't have a commitment. He didn't have a commitment in his heart for really anything. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, you can't allow yourself to live in that fear and camp there and stay there. You have to get to the bottom of it. You have to find out what it is, where it's from, and why we have it. And then you take it, you move from that camping stage and doing that. You'll hear me in, especially in Divine Warrior Intuitive, about the graveyard. You take the graveyard, you bury it, you put it away, you go put flowers on it for a while, or come back and put flowers on it, but you leave. You keep moving forward. You keep moving forward. You don't go back there, put a camp or a tent up. Don't go back and live in fear. Put a tent up there, and then before you know it, you got a whole bunch of people surrounding you, these homeless people that sit there and surround you in the fear that they have too. And hey, let's wallow in it. Let's stay in it. No, you have to face the fear. A lot of that is also too breaking away from old habits, because we have also developed fear out of bad patterns, bad habits. Now I say bad and people are like, well, there's no bad habit. Anything that is destructive to your mind or your body physically is a bad habit. So yes, you can do that. So find out what it is that you're looking at. Find out your perspective against the other person's perspective, if it has to do with a person. Now, if you're like me, fear of falling off cliffs, what was it that caused me to be fearful of that? So I had to go back and try to dig up my history. Now, I can't remember, probably before I was 7 or 8 years old, because of trauma. So I may never know those unless I really want to unlock the key, and the divine's going to have to help that. But the thing is, before that, what was it that caused that? Did I fall down some steps or whatever? I never really found that out. But how, if we can't find out where the core came from, what we can do is start where we're at. What is it that I can do to make me not fear an edge? So if I go, I first found this fear when we were in the Rocky Mountains when I was 9 years old, traveling. Well, actually, we're moving from Michigan, upper Michigan, to Oregon. We were in the Rockies. Never saw mountains so big in my life. We got out, and my mom forced me to go to the edge. And I said, Mom, I can't. I didn't know why, but I knew that I couldn't go to that edge. Don't know why. So it even started at an early age. But what I did know is that any time that there was a railing or a guard or anything like that, I still was fearful. Where was that planted? I don't know. In my subconscious. However, what you do is talk yourself through the fear. You talk yourself through. Now, if you have vertigo, that might be a completely different thing. You need to get, what do you call that, diagnosed for that, for vertigo, because some people, when they look at different depths perceptions, there may be a vertigo thing happening also, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just plain old fear. So what you do is you actually begin to talk yourself through it with a very logical mind. And then you actually listen to your intuition, which is your spirit, which is God, your guide, and everything. Why? Because your spirit is actually where the basis of everything starts. Because that's your integrity, your morals, that is what your belief systems, everything in there. It's already there. And what happens is that speaks to your mind speaks to your body, and your body reacts or not reacts the way it should, or speaks the way it should not. So this is the way your body works. Whether people believe it or not, it is the way it works. It starts here. Why? Because why do we have a fight or flight? It's when you think of animals. What is it that they know how to just do things when they come out? They should be taught, right? No, this is something internal that we're given at birth by divine, that we actually have a GPS, we have a mental mechanism inside of us to know right from wrong. Even if we don't know something, we know right from wrong. Same with fear. So we have to work through that. We have to think, okay, what is my intuition telling me? For one, being an empath, I don't even have to go out on a date. I'm single. Okay. So if I even call some guy and talk to him for 5 minutes, I already know that this is not going to go forward. Now I already know that this is not going to, so why would I put myself in a position that I know that it's not going to move forward, but then out of fear, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go out with you. Why do that to yourself? Why waste time? Because the thing is, you're here for a purpose and a calling, and you need to find that and focus. And fear is going to keep you away from that purpose and that calling. So when you do face your fear, you talk yourself through it. Okay, you know what? I'm at an edge. Okay, there's an edge here. There's a railing, so I'm safe. They put a railing here. So why does my brain go, okay, you're going to fall over? Where are you going to fall over? Oh, you know what? Don't get too close because the wind might blow you over. Your brain will go to every aspect that will try to talk you out of something that is perfectly safe. Again, go back to the definition of fear. Fear is something that may cause you pain or be a threat. This is not a threat to me. There's a railing. I'm standing here. I'm by myself. I don't see nobody. Nobody's going to push me over. Nobody's going to do anything. So I stand there. And if I have to, the very first times I did, I held onto the rail. And I talked myself through it. See, there's nothing wrong. See, look at this. This is a beautiful, gorgeous view. This was up in I live in Oregon, so the gorge where you could stand and you could see the cliffs and things like that. And it was very, very beautiful. So beautiful. And I stood there. So I did that. And before you know it, I talked myself out. This is okay. I can do this. Now, I might be shaking a little bit like, ooh, I'm not comfortable. I'm not nervous. We're out of our comfort zone. We're out of our box. That's typical. That's normal. It's okay. Maybe you're getting a little sweaty. Maybe, see, we got to go back to where the core is. Why? Because if it's making you physically ill, that means that you have allowed this to be a habit and to become part of you that may not even be you. And that's the thing, is that we allow other people to influence us to be what we're not. And then that goes against our grain. So that's why we have a mechanism in ourselves to know whether it's fearful or not, because it's going against who we were even built to do. So another thing, I'm horses. I've been in horses since, 8, 9 years old. And I've been in horses until now. I have a horse business. I have a leathersmith. So the thing is, but if I ask somebody to go riding with me and they're fearful, first question is, when did you fall off a horse? When did a horse hurt you? And they will go back to a time. Well, you were given the wrong horse, the wrong time for your age, really, really wrong. So that person did you wrong. Again, face what it is and find out how to correct it. Number one is to basically look at the fear, identify it, and not deny it. So you're going to do two things. Don't deny you have a fear for it, and identify it. For when I was going out, first time dating, from my sexual abuse, really, really low self-esteem. I was doing what women do. I used to do that. I used to be real fearful and like, yeah, okay, you want to do that? Sure, I'll do that. Not a problem. Let's go do that. Some sport or whatever it was. But I hated it. I just wanted to do it because for the wrong reasons, rather than saying, you know what, I'm really not into that. You know what, we really don't have a lot of common interests, It doesn't mean that we're not going to meet or meet in the middle, but you know what, this is something to speak about and clarify. Out of the first 3 dates, ladies, if you go on first 3 dates, know what you want. Need help with this? Ask for a coaching session with me. But the thing is, these are things that you want to work through and get through. So then you begin to face that fear. If you have a fear of, I know my daughter's friend has a fear of spiders. Why? Not sure. But the thing is, put a spider in a jar and just let it sit there. You are not being harmed. This is a little house spider. This is something that's not going to hurt you, but it is there. You look at it, you identify it, you look at it, and you say, you know what? And then you begin to talk yourself through it. The spider's in a jar, it's never going to hurt me. But here goes that other side of your brain again, but what if it pops out of the jar? What if the lid comes off the jar? Oh, what if that air hole, what if it goes through the air hole? We begin to talk ourselves into the fear rather than out of the fear. So find out which way you're talking to yourself. Find it, grab it, realize it, and work through it. Again, some of those things are you need to have a coach, or you need to have somebody help you through those. These are the basics that I'm giving you today. There is so much more that can help you through that. However, once you begin to, again, go back to the cliff edge for me, is that when I did that, I was like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Nobody's around and I'm okay. Oh, okay. So the next time it happens, now we live in Oregon and there's a place that actually you can walk underneath a waterfall. It's called Silver Falls. And there's no railing. Well, I can't remember I don't even know if there's railings or not. But I think there's a railing so you don't fall over the edge. But at the top of the waterfalls, you can do that. And there is one. And now I could go to the edge and look over and not touch it. Now, the other thing is, years after that, I was able to take this 3-mile hike up to one of the, we call it Angel's Crest, that overlooked the gorge. Now, this is out in the open. So then what happens is, there is a peak that everybody likes to go to. It's a big rock that sticks out over everything. And then they sit there and they take their pictures, or they have somebody take a picture because there's nothing much underneath there. So what happens is I didn't go to the edge because I'm not stupid. I am not going to, I'm not going to do that because it could put me in danger. That's that real fear of maybe possibly falling. But the thing is that I did go out as far as you safely could do. And I looked over, looked down, looked across, saw some beautiful hawks flying and everything. And the fear is gone. It's that Olaf snowman that begins to melt in the summer. And now it's like not a problem. Flying, I can look down. In fact, I can turn the plane over, look down. Oh, yeah, that's really cool. Wow, look at that. Not a problem. Facing your fear actually then begins to build your confidence, your self-esteem. But on top of that, it's going to help you with your goals, your visions, because when you do that and you're working towards your purpose and your calling, your focus has to be where you have blinders on and you go for what you were built to do, what you were designed and created to do. Because what happens very easily is you're going to get naysayers. You're going to get people that want to sabotage you. You're going to get more destructive people that come around you and say that even knew you from a past. And they're going to say, well, yeah, you had a fear of edges. How's that going for you? Yeah. But when you build that confidence, that person needs to go away because they have nothing. They're supportive for you. But you want the people around you that are going to support you through the things that you go through and build that confidence. That person who's going to say, yeah, right, whatever, you don't do that no more. Just even hearing those thoughts and allowing them into your brain allows that person to feed you toxicity, allows you to be a distraction, which needs to go away. Put your blinders on. Not hearing you. Too bad. I know me. Because when you build confidence, you begin to know yourself. And that's when you begin to really walk in the truth. And that's another video. I'm not going to go into it. But that's when you begin to really know yourself. Not what other people made you to be. Not what other people want you to be. But you know your calling, your purpose, and where you want to go. So that is how to begin to face fears. Now, is it easy? Hell, no, it's not. It's hard. Do we have one fear? No, we have many fears. Now, that was a physical fear for me, but it also had me thinking distortedly. And then as a child being abused, I had another distortion of not only my body, but how to be loved and how I would fear and how I would grow me up into my 50s and have me think about the wrong way of thinking of how I want to be loved, how I should be loved, how I deserve to be loved, and that kind of. So I think that's pretty, but again, the fear will melt away. Now, the other aspect of fear that I haven't talked about, which I saved for last, because a lot of people don't have this ability. So I teach spiritual coaching, empath coaching, and intuitive coaching because a lot of people have the fear of the unknown, this paranormal, the supernatural, and they have that fear. However, there's a lot of people out there, just like me, that have abilities that don't understand them. There's not that clarity like I talked before, whereas most of the clarity that we have in our other fears, we can't do in our supernatural fears. So there is a huge misconcept based on media, TV, movies, which pisses me off because then it hinders the person from growing their gifts or abilities, what the divine has given them, and wants them to use a gift to help others. So this is a fear a lot because the misconception of majority of what people think is it's occult, it's not allowed in our belief, it's not allowed in our whatever. It is, and I won't go into that because I was in that, for a long, long time. Now, I'm not talking about, well, religion is just a word. It's not actually a relationship with the divine. You'll hear me call the divine God, creator. Now, the universe is different, but the thing is, spirits, we talk about spirits. There isn't one culture, one belief system that doesn't talk about spirits. And they don't talk about prophets, that they don't talk about the good and the bad and the good, or the good and the evil. They don't talk about that. However, energy is energy, and there is energies around us, whether we like it or not. There's vibrations around us. That's the universe, works in frequency and vibrations. And then the thing is that we fear it because we don't know about it, and we're too afraid, if we have a curiosity about it, to go and research it because of a belief system. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't start emailing me. And I have a belief system, and everybody has their own belief system. Perspective. Remember, I don't poo-poo anybody's belief system. However, I do believe that you need to research to make sure that you're on the right path, or if you've been fed a line of bull that maybe some other people might have said or taught to you, because you just decided to go with whatever was the way you grew up, or the weather, what is being presented to you, or whatever. It's very easy to say, you know what, that's a very interesting fact. I'll go back and research that. Until then, I really don't want to talk about it yet. Same with politics. I won't talk politics because I don't care. It's earthbound. It's not spiritual bound. I don't care. I don't have a fear of politics. I don't want to talk about politics. That's the difference. So when you're looking at the supernatural, yes, I've had poltergeists. I've had entities want to follow me from house to house when I moved. I've had really good energies, and the divine, he talks to me all the time. Now that's our intuition. People fear even their own intuition. And people come to me all the time saying, how do I build my intuition? You just have to start listening to it, because as soon as you say, oh, I don't want to do that, something says, again, the fight or flight, you know what? Something tells me not to do that, and you go and do it, and then you're messed up. Well, you just went against your intuition. But people fear that because what they want rather than what they need. So the divine will give you that intuition, but people fear that. People fear spirits. People fear entities. I would say that 90+% of spirits or entities that you guys probably look at are either, one, residual energies that actually the spirit is gone and they're not even there anymore. It's their residual energy that is still there, especially if you're in a house that maybe somebody passed away or somebody. And I've had that experience and blew my person's mind. Actually, it was my boss's house. I had to watch for a weekend, and I walked in one day and there was a German lady, just a sort of like a hologram, a German lady with the old apron, big gray hair, bun, bent over the sink. And I was like, that was my first experience of seeing. And I was like, and I'm like, okay, but then it went away really quick. And I was like, okay, this is a creepy house. This is okay. But I didn't know about residual energies then. I thought it was literally a dead spirit. What I come to find out, my manager comes home. How's the house? Everything's great. But I said, I got a question to ask you, because the house looked like it was made from Germany. He lived in the country, but the barn looked like it was Germany. The house looked like it was Germany. I said, but I got to ask you this question. So I said, I don't know if you got a spirit in this house or what. And the thing is that he says, well, no, why? What's going on? I said, well, I don't know if you got a spirit or not. But so I said to him, I came in from the barn from feeding the animals, and I looked into your kitchen, and there was this, and I explained exactly what this woman looked like. And he's like, and his eyes got huge, and he got sort of pale, and he goes, Pat, that can't be possible. And I said, I know what I saw. So that's what I saw. And she says, I don't think that's possible. And I explained. And he says, and I said, why? And he says, because we bought this house from a German couple. And what you described is the wife of the German couple, and she lives down the street. So what I saw was residual energy. Was I fearful? It was a little uncomfortable because I'm like, do I got to keep my eyes open when I sleep? Because I was new. I was fearful because I didn't have clarity. Once I learned that that was residual energy, no big deal, because there's residual energy wherever you go. That's why sometimes people get really fearful in a home, which could be a really good reason to be fearful, is into a home that they just purchased that maybe somebody died in or was murdered in, and then that energy is there. That residual energy is there. However, that spirit also might be there. So, but there's fear because there's no clarity. So that's where I'm going to end with this, because the thing is, with fear, we have to, one, get clarity. We have to know ourselves and walk in truth from ourselves. Once we begin to do that, we can be able to face the fear, begin to change our mindset. That's where it is. So we change our heart first, we get to our mindset, we work with our mind, and we transform that from a destructive pattern of thinking to a constructive pattern of thinking, so that we can build confidence to be able to know what we want, where our goals and everything are for our vision, for our purpose, and our calling in life. Once we can get that to that point, the fear diminishes and it's gone. How wonderful would that be? I want you there. I want you to be able to do that. Now, with a person with a lot of fears, I had so many fears. But the other thing too is that we also have to make sure that we know that what we control inside of us, we have power. If you're in an abusive relationship, that power is being held over you. But the thing is too, we have the power to come out of that. We have the power to begin to face that fear. Be smart about it, because some abuse is very dangerous to come out of. I worked in chemical dependency and the abuse in the county. But the thing is, that can be very dangerous to come out of. But that person who is being underneath that abuse, that person needs help in growing to get the courage to begin to take each step as it is needed. That is also with, I don't use the word addiction. I use a stronghold. That stronghold of either drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever it is that's keeping you in that stronghold. It has to be worked step by step by step. You can't do it alone. You cannot do that alone. So I really hope this has been helpful. I hope this gives you some little bits of tools, some ideas, some seeds that have been planted. I hope it gives you some tips how to work through some of those things. And then on the other end of it, please, I would love your feedback. Please like, share, subscribe. You're going to see this on both Get Balanced 2020, and I am going to share it with Divine Warrior Intuitive. But the thing is, I want both of you to know, because no matter if it is an earthly fear or a spiritual fear, and some people even have fear of God. We should have sort of fear of God because he is bigger than us. But the thing is, some people have that fear that they don't want to get to know him, because that is probably the ultimate fear, because if God can see everything, then he knows every secret. He knows what we've done. He knows where we're at. He knows in our mind. He knows all of that. So that can be really fearful, because it makes you very vulnerable to really have to change your life around. That's one thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, share, subscribe. I would really love if you share. Again, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do so, whether it be Get Balanced 2020, where you can get all kinds of mind, spirit, and body. There's nutrition stuff there too, exercise, and get there. And if you're into more spirituality, empath, intuitive, then you can go to Divine Warrior Intuitive. But like, share, subscribe, or like both. I would appreciate it. And I thank you for checking out my channel. Take care.